Sometimes a baseball game is loud because of one swing. Sometimes it's loud because a superstar hits a ball into the seats. And sometimes it's loud in a meaner way. Sometimes a game just keeps happening to you. Single to center, single to left, a bunt that becomes another hit, another single, another man on base, another inning where the defense walks back to its position, feeling like it did not get beat by greatness so much as it got slowly, methodically, professionally bothered to death. That's this game. August 5th, 1974. Candlestick Park, Astros, Giants. Greg Gross, 4 days past his 22nd birthday, goes 5 for 5. Houston gets 19 hits, and 18 of them are singles. Don Wilson throws 7+ solid innings and helps himself at the plate. Milt May drives in 3, and the Giants never recover from the feeling the Astros have found 1,000 different little ways to ruin their day. This isn't a mythology game. It's not a Hall of Fame coronation either. It's one of those nights where a man hits 3 home runs, and the camera knows exactly where to point. This is a workmanship game. This is a game about what baseball looks like when one team decides the outfield glass belongs to them. I'm documenting one game per 100, per player until I reach 100. And welcome back to Astro 100. Today's Astro 17, and today the lens is Greg Gross. The date is August 5th, 1974, and the Astros beat the Giants 7-2 at Candlestick Park. Houston leaves town at 56-52, while San Francisco drops to 50-62. Today's idea is simple. Baseball can humiliate you without ever looking very dramatic. The Astros don't bludgeon San Francisco in this game. They inconvenience them to death. 5 hits from Greg Gross, 3 from Don Wilson, a pitcher. That's just rude. 3 runs driven in by Milt May, and a 4-run seventh that feels less like an explosion and more like an invasion. If you came here wanting the clean cinematic sports story where one man does this giant thing, this isn't that. You came here to understand how a good baseball team can make another professional baseball team feel trapped inside 9 innings of paperwork. Now we're talking. The Astros arrive here in an interesting spot. Not a great spot, but not hopeless either. Just irritating. They're a respectable club, but the National League West in 1974 is being swallowed by larger animals. Los Angeles is real. Cincinnati's real. Atlanta's having a real year too. So Houston comes into August in that dangerous emotional zone where every game matters, but not always in a glamorous way. Sometimes a game matters because if you lose it, you slide backwards into the big gray middle. Sometimes a game matters because you're tired of hearing about how other teams are better. Houston had just been through a rough stretch. They lost a pair in Cincinnati. Then they lost 2 one-run games in LA. And that can sour a road trip in a hurry. You start feeling like every decent thing you do gets erased by one better bullpen arm, one bigger bat, and one cleaner late inning sequence. So by the time they get to San Francisco, the Astros need something, not a miracle, just a game where they're the ones doing the dictating. The Giants are in a different emotional neighborhood. San Francisco still has recognizable talent. Bobby Bonds is still here. Dave Kingman's here. Gary Maddox is here. Gary Matthews and Chris Spear is here. This isn't an empty expansion shell, but the record tells the truth anyway. 50-62 is not bad luck. 50-62 means that for 4 months, almost every good quality you have comes with a corresponding weakness attached to it. A little power, but not enough sequence. Some athletes, not enough stability. A good arm here, a leaky inning there. Useful roster, but no durable identity. And that's why this game matters to both clubs in different ways. For Houston, this is a reclaim your balance game. For San Francisco, this is one more day trying to prove the season's not already done. This is one of those wonderful baseball weeks where the sport feels big in every direction. The center of gravity in the National League is still the heavyweight argument between the Dodgers and the Reds. Those are the clubs with pennant posture, and those are the clubs making everybody else check the scoreboard with a little resentment. The same day as this game, Los Angeles beat Cincinnati 6-3. So while Houston's quietly putting together a craftsmanship win against San Francisco, the giant NL West argument keeps raging in Dodger Stadium. Over in the East, the Phillies and Cardinals are in a race that still feels alive. On the same date, St. Louis beats Philadelphia 3-2 in a long one. So the National League is split between two kinds of tension. In the West, two famous powers. In the East, a tighter, scrappier chase. And the week carries some baseball pageantry too. Hall of Fame induction season is right around the corner, with Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford about to be honored in Cooperstown. So the sport is doing what it always does best, living in several eras at once. Mantle and Ford are being framed for history, while a 22-year-old named Greg Gross is turning five singles into his calling card. And because baseball is baseball, the same date is also tied to one of the strangest little pieces of 1970s color, the famous Frisbee dog interruption during the nationally televised Dodgers-Reds game that night, which means on one August Monday in 1974, baseball somehow contained all of the following at once: Hall of Fame reverence, pennant race seriousness, a rookie in San Francisco spraying five singles, and a dog doing tricks on national television. That feels correct. This game only drew 4,896 people, and that's a crime against a perfectly good baseball afternoon. You have Bobby Bonds and Cesar Cedeno in the building. You have a young Greg Gross in the middle of a special rookie year, and you have Don Wilson, already one of the defining arms in Astros history. You have two division opponents. You have an actual baseball game, not some exhibition of dead roster filler. And you get 4,896. I know Candlestick had weather problems, and I know the Giants were just under 500. I know August Mondays aren't exactly church revivals. I don't care. The sport has always had a bad habit of under-attending the very games that later become interesting. Everybody wants to remember history after somebody else does the remembering for them. But one of the reasons I like this project is that it lets me stop and point at a random Monday and say, no, that counted too. Especially this one, because this is exactly the kind of game that disappears if nobody bothers to love it. Let's do the men in charge. Preston Gomez is managing the Astros in his first season with Houston. He's a baseball lifer in the purest sense. Cuban-born, longtime minor league teacher, coach, manager, one of those men who seems built out of bus rides, lineups, and fungo bats. He barely had a major league playing career at all, but he had a baseball life. Those are not the same thing. Before Houston, he managed the expansion Padres and built a reputation as a fundamentals man, a details man, a guy who generally preferred that baseball makes some sense. That matters in a Greg Gross game because this entire afternoon looks like a team that has been told to stay inside itself, keep the line moving, take what's available, and never apologize for winning without fireworks. Across from him is Charlie Fox of the Giants. Fox is deeply rooted in the Giants baseball world. A former New York Giant as a player, longtime organizational man. He managed the Giants to the NL West title in 1971, which means he isn't some random caretaker. But by 1974, the shine's worn off. This club has talent, but not coherence. Fox is trying to hold together a roster that can still hurt you, but they can't seem to hold a season. Now the pitchers. For Houston, it's Don Wilson, one of the most important arms in franchise history. Wilson was born in Monroe, Louisiana, and by this point, he's already far more than just another rotation guy. He's a power right-hander with two career no-hitters already behind him. He just collected his 100th win as an Astro less than a week earlier against the Reds. He's not here on the mound as a novelty. He's a mound, and he's a grown-up, a real one, a man you trust to halt drift, and he does exactly that. 7 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 run allowed while he's in the game. 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. And because the Giants have suffered enough already, he also goes 3 for 3 with a double. That's a day's work. For the Giants, the starter's Charlie Williams. Williams is one of those names that makes old baseball nerds sit up because he came over from the Mets in the 1972 deal that sent Willie Mays back to New York. That alone makes him side quest worthy. He's not an ace, and he's not a myth, but he's a useful right-hander trying to carve out a permanence on a team that keeps reshaping itself around him. And for 5 innings, he's mostly fine. That's the cruel part. He allows 1 run in 5 innings. 9 hits, yes, but only 1 run. The Astros keep annoying him without fully breaking him. Then the bullpen enters. The single parade becomes a civic emergency, and Williams gets tagged with the loss anyway. That's baseball. Sometimes the line between respectable and doomed is just the inning after you leave. The clean answer on Hall of Famers is no, there aren't any Hall of Famers in the starting lineup. Forces you to watch the actual game instead of outsourcing your feelings to the plaque room. But don't mistake no Hall of Famers for no names. The Astros run out Greg Gross, Roger Metzger, Cesar Cedeno, Lee May, Milt May, Bob Watson, Doug Rader, Tommy Helms, and Don Wilson. The Giants counter with Bruce Miller, Tito Fuentes, Gary Maddox, Bobby Bonds, Gary Matthews, Chris Spear, Dave Kingman, Ken Rudolph, and Charlie Williams. That card is full of baseball. Cesar Cedeno is one of the most electric all-around players in the sport. Bobby Bonds is a ferocious talent and already one of the game's most dynamic power speed threats. Dave Kingman is a future cult object because nobody ever hit the ball in more theatrical ways, while also remaining strangely hard to solve as a baseball character. Gary Maddox will go on to be one of the great defensive center fielders of his generation, and Gary Matthews can really hit. Bob Watson is one of the most professional bats that Houston has, and Doug Rader is a major franchise figure. So no, not Cooperstown on the lineup card, but absolutely a game full of people who matter. There's not a preserved treasure trove of quotes heading into this game, but the emotional talk is easy enough to hear. From the Giants side, the first argument's obvious. Hey, we beat you at the start of the year. San Francisco opened the season by sweeping Houston in a 3-game set at Candlestick. That matters in a division rivalry, even a low-boil one. It establishes the tone. It tells the other club, this park is going to be annoying for you. And the Giants also beat Houston 7-2 in Houston just a week earlier on July 29th. So the implicit Giants argument is, you're not too good for us. From Houston's side, the answer is just as obvious. Look at the records. Houston comes in above 500, trying to remain relevant. San Francisco comes in 12 games under. The Astros have every right to feel that this is exactly the sort of series a serious club is supposed to handle. So the Astros' emotional message is, enough screwing around, enough split the difference, nonsense. We're better than this. Let's start acting like it. On this day, they do. This is not one of the great blood feud matchups in baseball rivalry. That's what makes it interesting. This is a division familiarity. Division familiarity can be its own kind of meanness. These clubs know each other's shapes. They know the parks, they know the travel, and they know which hitters drag bunts. They know which guys try to steal a base when you blink, and which pitchers are vulnerable the second time through the lineup. The common thread here isn't legendary hatred, it's repetition. Houston and San Francisco have been seeing each other over and over since the Astros entered the National League. By August of 1974, there's enough accumulated memory between these clubs that every little thing feels personal, even when no one says so. Another common thread is style contrast. The Giants have thread bats. Bobby Bonds, Kingman, Matthews. The Astros on this day are the opposite kind of terror. They're not selling fear, they're selling nuisance. They're making the defensive move. They're making the pitcher throw again, and they're taking the extra 90 feet when they can. They're also asking the same question until San Francisco gets tired of answering it. And that's its own rivalry aesthetic. A very interesting side quest here. Charlie Williams was part of the Willie Mays trade. That alone should buy him a drink in any baseball conversation. When the Giants send Willie Mays back to the Mets in 72, Williams was one of the players that came the other way. Imagine being a professional ball player and spending the rest of your life attached to that sentence. Not Charlie Williams, useful right-handed pitcher. Not Charlie Williams, major leaguer. No, you're forever one of the return pieces in a Willie Mays deal. And that's the kind of baseball fate that follows you into every room. And on this afternoon, he's trying to win a ball game against Houston while carrying that little historical footnote on his back. For 5 innings, he does a fair job. Then Greg Gross and friends turn his box score into an obituary for the concept of a manageable contact. That's the side quest. The game is about Greg Gross, but the mound has a man on it whose biography is tethered to Mays. Baseball's never only about the people you come to see. Now to the main man. Gregory Eugene Gross was born on August 1, 1952 in York, Pennsylvania. Left-handed hitter, left-handed thrower. Not physically imposing, not a hulking power prospect. The listed measurements tell you almost immediately what kind of ball player this has to be. Bat control, timing, feel, angles, nerve. The Astros draft him in the fourth round in 1970 out of Red Land High School. He climbs through he climbs through the system the honest way. No hype machine, no big home run totals forcing the baseball world to stop and look, just hitting and just enough competence at multiple spots. He has just enough consistency that everyone in the organization eventually has to admit the obvious. The kid can play. He debuts late in 1973, and by 74, he's not a curiosity anymore. He's the Dodgers' starting right fielder and leadoff man. That's responsibility. That's trust. That's a manager looking at a young player and saying, I want the first plate appearance of the game in your hands. And to his credit, Greg Gross earns it. This season becomes the defining rookie campaign of his career. It's the only rookie campaign of his career. A batting title flirtation, a flood of hits, an on-base machine without home run glamour attached to it. Baseball history is full of men who hit the ball hard enough to be remembered. It's less generous to the men whose gift was being impossible to get rid of. Gross is one of those men. He comes to the plate looking like a nuisance in the best way possible. The swing is compact, the ambition is not theatrical. He's not here to make the game kneel to him. He's here to make the pitcher uncomfortable with reality. On this date, he's 4 days removed from his 22nd birthday, and that detail is important because what you're watching in this game is not a veteran craftsman near the end of a soft career. It's a very young hitter already in full command of what he is, and that is impressive. A lot of players spend years trying to discover their professional identity. Greg Gross here already has one. And for Gross, this game is not the biggest day of his life, but it is one of those days that clarifies the argument for him. 5 hits, no doubles, no triples, no home runs. 5 singles. That's the entire case. If you need to explain Greg Gross to someone who'd never seen him, you could just almost hand him this box score. He leads off the game with a single. He bunts for one later. He scores. He drives in a run. He steals a base. And he keeps showing up. He forces the defense to stop accounting for him. This isn't the fake version of his skill set. This is the pure version. It tells the Astros they aren't receiving a lucky first half from a rookie. They're discovering a genuine offensive identity piece. And it tells Gross something too. There's room in this league for exactly the kind of player he is. Maybe not in the magazine covers, but in lineups and in winning baseball. In projects like this decades later, where some fool like me stops on a Monday in San Francisco and says, yes, that matters. All right, let's walk it through. The Astros waste no time letting Charlie Williams know the day is going to be annoying. Top of the first, Greg Gross leads off with a single to center. That's the first little cut. He steals second. So before Charlie Williams can settle, there's already movement, already consequence, and already a guy in scoring position. He strands him there, but the feeling started. The Giants answer with a threat of their own in the bottom half when Bruce Miller doubles and gets bunted over to the third. But Don Wilson strands him. And that matters because right away, the game announces 2 things. 1, Houston's going to keep putting men on. 2, San Francisco's going to have fewer chances to cash theirs. The second inning's quiet. In the third, Houston finally breaks it. Top 3, Don Wilson doubles. That's insult number 1. Then Greg Gross drops down a bunt, and Wilson reaches third. Roger Metzger singles to left. Wilson scores. Gross moves up, and the Astros lead 1-0. It's a small inning, but it's a perfect inning for this particular game. The pitcher doubles, the leadoff man bunts his way on, and the shortstop flips a single into the left. 1 run, no thunder. All irritation. The Astros threaten again in the 5th, and this is where Charlie Williams deserves a brief, strange compliment. Houston gets 3 straight men aboard with 1-out situation pressure all over him. Wilson singles, Gross singles, Metzger singles. Bases loaded, nobody out. And this is where games usually crack. But Williams gets Cesar Cedeno looking and then gets Lee May to roll into a double play. That's a huge survival moment. If you're San Francisco, you're telling yourself the baseball gods just kept you alive. The problem is the Astros aren't leaving. Charlie Williams exits after 5 innings. Randy Moffett takes over in the 6th and gets through it clean. Then comes the 7th, and the game finally opens its mouth. Top 7, Tommy Helms walks. Don Wilson bunts him to second, and Greg Gross singles to right. Helms scores. It's 2-0. That alone would be a good inning for Gross, but he's not finished. Metzger singles. Gross takes third. Cedeno pops up, out. Lee May singles to left center and Gross scores. Metzger hits third. It's 3-0. Then Milt May singles to right. Lee May scores. Metzger scores, and Milt May takes second. Now it's 5-0. That's your ball game, really. And notice how Houston did it. A walk, sacrifice, single, single, single. No fireworks. Just a team setting an infield clock on you and refusing to stop. San Francisco gets a lone hit in the bottom 7th, but no run. The Astros threaten again in the 8th. Don Wilson singles again. Greg Gross singles again, because of course he does. But Houston leaves him there. Then they put the last formal stamp on it in the 9th. Top 9, Lee May singles. A wild pitch moves him up. A pass ball moves into third. Milt May singles him home. Wilbur Howard singles. Doug Rader flies out, moving the pressure around. Larry Milbourne singles to left, and Milt May scores. Now it's 7-1. San Francisco does get a Bobby Bonds home run in the bottom of the 9th, off Ken Forsch. It's a nice reminder that there's still real talent on the other side. But it only changes the game score cosmetically. Final is Astros 7, Giants 2. Houston had 19 hits. The best detail of all, 18 of those 19 hits are singles. That's not an offensive spectacle. That's offense as occupation. To each team, for Houston, this game meant exhale, not celebrate. Exhale. It stops the slide from Cincinnati into Los Angeles into maybe another flat night. It reminds the club that it can still impose its preferred style on somebody. It restores some road dignity and proves they can win a division game without waiting for a 3-run homer that never comes. For San Francisco, this game is just another grim entry in the season notebook. The Giants are not blown out in some embarrassing error fest. They're out-executed. That can be more discouraging, because if a team beats you 12-1 with 3 home runs, you can just say that's one of those nights. But if a team beats you 7-2 with 19 hits and almost all singles, that means they kept finding the game's weak seams and pulling them out. That's harder to forget. Now, why would this game matter to a casual fan, or how could it make a new baseball fan? Well, if somebody tells you baseball is boring because not enough huge things happen, I'd hand them this game. Not because it's flashy, because it teaches the sport correctly. This game shows that baseball is not fundamentally about the home run. A home run is a shortcut. It's a beautiful one often, but it's a shortcut. This game is about the older machinery of the sport. The single, the steal, the bunt. First to third. The inning that keeps breathing on you even after you think you survived it. A casual fan can learn from this game that baseball has horror movie pacing when it wants to. It doesn't always kill you all at once. Sometimes it follows you down the hallway. And for a brand new fan, Greg Gross is a perfect guide because he's understandable. You don't need a PhD in launch angle to appreciate 5 hits. And you don't need a spreadsheet to understand a batter who just keeps refusing to go away. The appeal's immediate. He's on base again and again and again. At some point, even the newest viewer understands the cruelty. Let's do the post-game honestly, because I can't invent a quote that I can't find. The conversation, I'm guessing, probably sounds like this. The first cluster's around Greg Gross, 5 hits. How often do you get that kind of day from a rookie? What are you seeing? Do you feel yourself trying to do more after the 3rd hit or the 4th hit? Did you stay within the same approach all day? The likely answer in Greg Gross language is nothing magical happened. He stayed short, took what was there. He used the field and ran when he could. He let the game come to him. Then the room turns to Don Wilson. 7 1/3 innings, 3 hits of his own. Those are veteran questions. Did he feel strong? Did he know early that his fastball had enough? What did he think of the club's approach behind him? Did having a 5-run cushion change anything late? And then there's Milt May, because 3 RBI in a game like this is the less glamorous but central work. His 2-run single in the 7th is where the game goes from tense to manageable. If you're Preston Gomez, the tone of the room is probably simple satisfaction. No fake poetry, no chest thumping, just the sense that the team played the game correctly. Pressure, execution, pitching, and more pressure. If you're Charlie Fox, though, it's a more familiar room. Manager explaining that the other club kept getting men on, that the bullpen inning got away, and that too many pitches turned into too much traffic. No need to decorate it. The box score does the talking. After this game, the Astros don't turn this game into a miracle run, and that's important because baseball is usually less obedient. Houston wins again the next day in San Fran, and there's a brief feeling that maybe something can gather. but the club ultimately plays the rest of the year like what it is: solid, competitive, but not quite enough. Not yet. After this win, the Astros go 25-29 the rest of the way, finish the season 81-81, fourth in the National League West. A perfectly even record can be frustrating, but it can also be revealing. Houston was not a joke. Houston was a contender. Houston was a real baseball team with real players and real strengths, living in a division where the ceiling was occupied by heavier machinery. The Giants go 22-28 after this game and finish 72-90, fifth in the division. Again, not talentless, just unstable. There are too many recognizable names on that roster for 72 wins to feel in any way satisfying. But that's what the season says anyway. A club of pieces, but not enough sequence, not enough structure. This game fits neatly into that larger truth. Greg Gross's career in life after this game. The beautiful thing about Greg Gross is that this game turns out not to be a weird one-day detour. It's a preview. He finishes 1974 with a .314 batting average and becomes one of the major rookie stories in the National League. He's recognized as a Sporting News National League Rookie Player of the Year, and he finishes runner-up in the official NL Rookie of the Year voting. Then his career keeps going, not in one dramatic line, but in one long, useful one. He stays with Houston through 1976, gets traded to the Cubs, and eventually becomes deeply associated with Philadelphia. As a Philly, he evolves from a young, everyday outfielder into something maybe even more distinctive. One of the game's most trusted left-handed bench bats and pinch hitters. That's a hard transformation. A lot of players don't survive the identity shift from starter to specialist, but Greg Gross does. He helps the Phillies win the 1980 World Series and stays in the game for years after that, eventually returning to Houston for a final stop as a player in 1989, which is a nice baseball circle. Then comes coaching, hitting instruction, Phillies staff work, more baseball life. It's one of the things I admire most about his story. This is not a comet career. It's a baseball career, a long one, an adaptable one, and a useful one. It's the kind of career built by a man who understood early there are many ways to matter if you can really hit. And on August 5th, 1974, he mattered in the purest possible sense. 5 singles, no pretending, no gimmick. Just the game, over and over, giving him one more chance and regretting it every time. Next time we move to Astros 18, Dave Roberts. Not this game's third baseman, Doug Rader, and not this game's giant catcher, Doug Rader. No, baseball's a ridiculous sport. Naturally, the next stop is Doug Roberts. So if today was about a rookie proving that a man can own an afternoon with nothing but singles, the next one gives us another branch of Astro history, another date, another box score that looked ordinary till you actually stopped and stared at it. That's the project. One player, one game, one chance to decide that it counted. So that's Astro 17, Greg Gross. August 5, 1974, Astro 7, Giants 2. A 5-hit game that didn't need a home run. A division game that looked small until you sit with it. A rookie performance that explains a whole baseball life in miniature. And maybe most of all, a reminder that some of the best baseball stories do not announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they just keep landing in the grass. Single, 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 single. And by the time the final out arrives, the other team has already understood what happened. They were not beaten by one giant moment. They were worked on. I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. Stay with me. We'll keep moving. Thanks for watching.